Okay, sounds great. I will do the roll call. Chair Walker,
Here.
Member Sleeth. I see him on there.
He's muted probably.
Here.
Okay. Member Patil
Here.
and Member Skolnick
Here.
and Mayor DeGoya will be joining us, and Councilmember Polito.
Here.
Okay. I was fumbling with the words on that.
Yeah, it is a little ridiculous, isn't it?
No, it's not. I was like, I was gonna say vice chair. So, but yeah, I caught myself. So, okay, that was roll call.
All right, so the meeting, so we have a quorum and meeting's called to order. Is there anybody here who wants to make a public comment? I don't see anybody other than people I was expecting at the meeting. Okay, if not, then let's move on to our agenda. First item is approving the minutes of our November 16th Audit and Finance Committee meeting. And I thought they looked fine. The only question I had is for you, Robert. In the roll call, it lists Bob, and my understanding was at the time of our November meeting, he had been put into the council, so he was no longer a member of our committee, and he had not yet been assigned as the council rep. So wasn't he just there as a guest, or was he there even? I don't remember, frankly.
He was there. I just put it in the notes, excused, and just the comment that he became a member of the city council. It was in transition before he became a council member. It was the following day. He was welcomed into the council meeting. Actually, I think, no, on Thursday, the meeting prior, he became a council member, and he was just there as a guest.
Okay, yeah. I just didn't know if we needed to say that, or if it's probably fine the way it is. We know it's clear we had a quorum because we had 4 of us. Mm-hmm. So okay, I don't have anything else. Any other comments or questions on the minutes of our last meeting?
I move they be approved.
Thank you, Wally. Second? Do we have a second?
And second it.
Kate, second. All right. All in favor approval? Oh, do you have to call roll?
Yeah,
ahead,
roll
Robert.
Call. Chair Walker.
In favor?
Member Sleeth.
Yes, in favor.
Patil.
Yep, in favor.
And Skolnick.
In favor.
Okay, so the minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is selection of a vice chair for this fiscal year. Since we lost Bob as our vice chair. And I guess I have a related question. And Robert, I know you and I exchanged emails, but I just wanted to make sure the rest of the committee knows that we do have a vacancy. I did see that the vacancy was posted in December, and I checked, and I believe that the deadline for applications is this Friday, the 14th. Is that your understanding, Robert?
Yeah, this Friday. I'm sorry, Robert, to jump in, but this Friday is the deadline at 5.
And can you, so I have 2 questions. Number 1, have you received applications, and if so, how many? And number 2, what is the date of the council meeting where they will be actually one of the applicants will be appointed?
If you're okay, Robert, I'll just take it. So we've gotten 3 applications. So that's what we got at this point. The council will consider appointment at the 19th meeting. And so if we get more than 3, they'll have a few candidates to consider, but right now they have 3.
And can you tell us who those are? It's not secret, is it?
Well, it's so there's a little, we're not supposed to share that until it's made public to everybody.
Okay, so what will it be when you publish the agenda then?
Absolutely. So it'll come out on the 14th. And what I can do is I'll talk to CM Rodriguez about this briefly, but for one, the council's been made aware of it. So if you guys have those relationships, you can have conversations. But considering I'll be publishing the agenda on Friday, I could probably give you guys, share it a little ahead of that, like Friday in the morning. But I'm sure that you probably can be, we can do something a little before, but go ahead, George.
Sorry, Anthony, you've shared these with the city council, and they
Correct.
are submitted applications through the town's website, so you can certainly note who we've received so far.
Okay. Let me just pull up the names. Stacy Miles applied. She's currently an EPC member. Tom, I think it's Hill. Hold on one second.
Yeah, it's Hill, Tom Hill.
Tom Hill, he applied. And we have one other applicant, and I don't want to mess up his name. 1 second, please. Stephen Brickley. So those are the three.
And I guess the other question is, do we have access to their applications? Because I personally would love, at least as chair, to look and then give the council my individual thoughts as to who I think would be the best choice. They don't have to listen to me.
That's where I was leaning more about what I can share ahead of time.
Okay.
So my understanding is that I can't share that until we publish the full agenda. So I don't know that I can give you a sneak peek
Okay.
on those
That's fine.
applications.
That's fine.
However, when we do publish early Friday, the meeting isn't until that Wednesday. So that should give you plenty of time to, reach out to the council and share your thoughts and recommendations.
Okay, great. So the only reason I'm raising this is I just wanted our current committee members to be aware of the timeline on this. And I know I personally plan on putting in a favorable word for one of these people whom I happen to know and know that he would be great. And I think Wally probably feels the same way. This is not an action being taken by the committee at all. It's purely individual, but if you're interested, keep your eye out for the Friday agenda from the council and take a look at the applicants. And by all means, contact the council if you have some input. I'm sure they'd be grateful for that.
Anthony, who was the first name again, please?
Stacy Miles, she's a current Environmental Programs Committee member, and Mayor DeGolia is joining us now.
Okay, great.
Hi, Rick. Welcome. Okay, so now we know the status of appointments to our committee, and we do need to select a vice chair, and it probably makes sense to do that today, even though we're one short, because it's probably pretty unlikely that we would make a brand new member of the committee a vice chair. So is there anyone who would like to step up and volunteer to be vice chair? If not, I'm going to suggest someone. Nothing?
Well, I was the vice chair prior to Bob coming on, and since he's so talented, I voted to have him take my place. So,
well, I would like to nominate that Wally Sleeth be the vice chair of this committee starting now until the end of this fiscal year. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great.
A third.
A third. Well, I guess technically we've all voted in favor then, but if you want to take roll call, it's fine.
So there was a nomination for Wally, and seconded by Skonik, and I believe everyone is in favor of Wally, except for I didn't hear if Wally was in favor of Wally.
I'm abstaining.
Oh.
Okay, good. Put that on the record.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wally. It's always nice to have someone to help out. So now to the I guess more serious business. We have Grace here from Mays and Associates to go over with us the audited financials for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2021. They were in your packet, and I read every page of them. I just want to say that because it was long. And I would like for Grace to go ahead and do whatever presentation she wants. And then, of course, if there are any questions or comments from the committee, I'd love to hear those. Grace?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and committee members. So we have completed our audit for fiscal year 2021 and issue our audit reports. It's it's still in a draft form, but we don't expect any major changes. So it's pretty settled at this point. So for fiscal year 2021, we started our audit back in May. For interim, mainly focus on internal control testing. And then our final audit started in October. And due to the ongoing pandemic, it has been mainly on a remote basis. We have issued our opinion with an unmodified opinion, which is also the highest possible clean opinion that an auditor can issue. So I want to provide some highlights for the town's financials quickly. I'm pretty sure all of you have already gone through the so I'm sorry, my screen is a little bit behind. Not sure who's controlling so the financial highlights for this year. For the entity Y, there are two so for those who may not be very familiar with the governmental reporting. So governmental reporting is mainly with two sessions. One is the entity Y, the summary of the whole town's financials, and then the fund level, which is the sorry,
I got it dropped off. Here you go.
Okay, yeah, and then the fund level is reporting individual funds financials. So I think there's one page before that for financial highlights, NTDY. So
this is 4, this is 5.
5, and the next one, financial yeah.
There you go.
So for the NTDY, I just want to give some quick highlights. So town's pension liability had 1.6 million increase, and the good news about the OPEB liability, it has a major decrease from prior year to this year's 2.9 million decrease, and mainly the main reason contributor to the decrease is the accumulating balance of in the trust. Town contributed to the trust to 8.9 million over the years, and the fiduciary position changed from 70% to almost 98% of the total OPEB liabilities, which generate a high investment income, for subsequently reducing the OPEB liabilities. And the net position has 6.5 million increase from prior year. So next page, when it comes to a general fund, the fund balance is 22.7 million, 10.6 million decrease from prior year, and the composition is mainly the non-spendable, assigned, committee, and unassigned. So that's the composition of the total 22.7 million. Okay. Next page. So highlights for the general fund financials. The average monthly expenditure is 1.2 million, and the unrestricted fund balance 60.5 million, which covers 12.9 months of the month expenditure that can be covered by unrestricted fund balance. So, which shows a pretty healthy financial aspects for general fund. Okay. And we also finalized the memorandum on internal control and required communications and in a draft form. So there's no control deficiency to be reported to the audit committee. Okay. That's summarized. And for the last 2 years, the audit has been conducted mainly on a remote basis due to the pandemic. And I really wanted to say a thank you to the finance team to be able to stay on top of things and provide all the request items to us on a very efficient and timely basis, especially to the finance director, Robert, who has been on a very close communication with all the audit team. That has been very time consuming, but really appreciate all the help he has been provided. It's the whole finance team has been a pleasure to work with.
Thank you very much, Grace. Anthony, you're sharing your own screen. Yeah, thank you. We were looking at something on your screen. And so I'd like to second that. Thanks to Robert and your whole team for doing such a wonderful job, and in the middle of it, moving into a new building. So that's pretty impressive. Is that your new office you're in, Robert?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
I have an actual nice background now. I know you all remember just me in a different background. So yeah, no, in my office, and it's a beautiful place. I think you all have seen or come by to see it. But yeah, it's been moving here and final audit and construction and boxes and unpacking and stuff. So it's been a challenging year, but I think the last couple of years for everyone has been challenging. So you just you continue to do what you're doing. You just add another layer to it. So, but yeah, I want to thank Grace also and her team, the auditors as well, and just the getting the information that they need, and then just the questions regarding the audit and things if they need additional information. So it was a team effort on both ends, not just the town side, but also on the auditor side. So. And it's a pleasure working with them. So thanks, Grace, for everything that you all do and helping us and guiding us through some of these turbulent times.
Great. So as I said, I really did read every word of the financials. And as usual, I always have minor comments, like commas and things like that. So I'm not going to bore anybody with that. But Robert, can I just send you those things, and you and Grace can go and see if I'm right, you can fix it, and if I'm wrong, you can let it be. So I'm not going to bother the committee with those little nits. I do have a few questions, more substantive questions that I would like to pose while you and Grace are both here. So let me find my first little green tab here. Okay, so I'm on page 18 of the financial statements. It is the statement of net position. And I had two questions here. One is on the liabilities portion of the statement of net position. I'm used to seeing subdivisions so that there is part of the liabilities that show as current liabilities and then others that show as long-term. And it has both, but no subdivision. Is there some difference between normal business and governmental, or just a different presentation?
I think it's just a different. I think the presentation is just what is due in the current year, and what is due in more than 1 year. So just for city municipal accounting, it's just mainly what's showing in the first year, and then everything after. It isn't divided into further years. Is that what you're mentioning?
Well, I'm just used to seeing
that's long term.
Yeah, I think Grace must know what I'm talking about. I'm used to seeing subheadings. So you'll have the big heading liabilities, and then it says current liabilities, and it lists all the different things, accounts receivable or whatever accounts payable, sorry, all that stuff. And then there'll be another subheading that says long-term liabilities, and that's for the things due in more than 1 year. And I just wonder if there's a reason for not putting those labels there.
And no, good question. No, actually, there commonly right now there's two two formats out there for the governmental reporting. For more simpler entities like town, especially when your long-term liability is not too complicated, it's combined in one session, but with the accounts payable, those only short-term, that's just one line, and then with those with both due in 1 year and due in more than 1 year, those particular like compensated absences, other long-term liability, they have two lines that separate into due in 1 and then due in more than 1 year. That's one kind of presentation. And then for some more cities with more complicated transactions, some of them, not all of them, some of them do separate into two different categories. So
Okay.
there's not, yeah.
That's fine. Bob Polito has his hand up. Bob, did you have a question?
I did, but I think I've solved it myself. Thanks.
Okay. The other question I had on this same page is, I see down at the bottom under net position, it says unrestricted, and we have a negative $6.6 million balance. And I'm scratching my head because I'm going, well, okay, does that mean that we spent restricted money? Because how can you get a negative unrestricted? I don't get that.
Correct. Yes. And another, that's why I emphasize on my initial presentation, this is just a draft form. So, so actually you raise a really good question. So actually GFOA, the Government Finance Office Association, they emphasize on, they notice a lot of cities have the net, in the net position calculation, the net investment in capital asset, the calculation need to be further clarified what kind of components in that. So for this net position, the net investment in capital asset calculation, $75 million, that one need to be separate out to include the capital asset related long-term debt, which amounted to $7 million. So actually the calculation, the calculation will actually show a net investment in capital asset be 75 minus 7.1 million of the long-term debt, and then subsequently the unrestricted will be about, my calculation show the, one second, let me pull up the number. So my calculations show the unrestricted is actually 425K. So that's one of the adjustment, not in terms of financial adjustment, but in terms of presentation purpose, that one will be reflected.
Correct.
So
and then just to kind of reflect also on that, and also because the statement of net positions is also, it's government wide, so it's including all our roll up of all our funds, and because of the unrestricted, it's negative 6.6 million, because we have the net pension liability, the OPEB liability, and we also have the COP lease, and that comes out of unrestricted as well. So that's the change on the unrestricted.
Okay.
So it's about
right.
26 million of 26 million that is deducted, that is giving the negative 6.6 million.
Clear as mud, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand that, but okay, thank you. The main thing is there's nothing wrong with it, and we didn't do anything wrong to get it to that position. So that's all I care about.
Yeah, I could send you what the balance is, but yeah, it's just taking all the.
It's fine. It was just,
Okay.
it was a knee-jerk reaction. We took, well, how did we get to there? The next.
And it's the first time that it's been that a negative amount. Every year it's been positive, but
So
yeah.
It was a fair question then. Okay. Page 29. This is in the general fund statement of revenues, and I was just looking at the expenditures for planning and building and noting that both of those were the expenses were more than $100,000 over budget. Was that related to town center stuff, or is that something else going on? Page.
No, it was other things. Correct. For the building, it was the increase in the building life safety expense and on the contract, and that increase was because the revenue was higher, and so the contract is revenue based. So at that time, after the budget was adjusted, there was more revenue and there was more expense in the building department. That's why it went over the budget, just because the budget wasn't adjusted to reflect increase in revenue in the last 2 months of the fiscal year. And then planning, it was higher because there's been a number of planning reviews and ordinances that increased last year, in mainly housing, ADU reviews, historical preservation. So it was increased costs on the planning side for the town. And that's why it went up over budget by 100,000. It had nothing to do with our actual construction, but just on the planning side for the town government on upcoming housing elements and historic preservation ordinances that our planning department's working on.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. And then I think my last, oh, wait a minute. So Rick, you had your hand up, but you put it down. You good? You're muted.
I think I figured it out.
Okay, my last thing relates back to what Grace mentioned, that the memorandum on internal control, and it is mentioned on page 93 of the very last page of the audited financials. And I would like for the committee to see a copy of that to review, even if it's clean. I just think we should see it, and we haven't seen it yet.
Yes, it's provided to Robert, and I believe Robert just need to make sure that the verbiage and there's no wordsmith about it. One thing in the memorandum of internal control is just the upcoming GASB 87 for that impact the across all the governmental entities for the lease, the treatment of lease, including both the capital lease and the operation lease, if it's material. So that might take some time of the finance to comb through the inventory to make sure that there's no material impact on cities, on towns' financial for the upcoming year. Just a heads up.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess, Robert, I think I had two questions for you on your report, page 5 of your item 5 memo. The very top of the page, at least the way mine printed out, it says staff will present to council in early fall/winter 2021. That's gone. So was it?
2020 into 21/22.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't missed something there. And also, this is a term that comes up many places in what I read. You use the term out year, and I'm not familiar with that. What does that mean? Out year. Out year, but more like outlook, like into future years. That's what the out year means. I can rephrase it, but it means in future years. In whether it's 5 years from now, it's more of that. That's okay. Like 5 years out. Okay, got it. Thank you. I'm sure it's a term of art. I just didn't get it. Bob, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question on the note 8, which is the OPEB liabilities.
Can you give us the page number, Bob?
Well, it starts on 68.
Okay.
No, it starts on. 64. But the point is, we got into this a few years ago where they changed the method of accounting for your OPEB liability with this ASOP 6. And it created an implicit liability that was added to our OPEB liability, which according to the financials right now is still a number in the neighborhood of in excess of $1.9 million. And yet our funding level now is extremely high, correct? Grace?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost fully funded. So how do we, since the implicit liability is never going to be incurred, and that's taken into account in that balance, my question is, how do we get that money back that we're never going to spend?
Well, on the liability, it increases it, but we haven't paid into it. We've paid into the trust. So as far as getting the money back, that implicit is kind of forecasting the health rates in future years going higher. But as we pay as we go, and based off of the accrued liability, the implicit subsidy is in there. We don't pay it out. We just pay it out as what the town realizes, whatever at what future time.
I kind of understood what you said, but I think you're missing my point. One of the reasons we're in such good shape is because we've got good returns on the money that we put into this separate fund. But a bigger reason is because we've never drawn any money from
Correct.
that fund. We're paying as you go. And so every year we're basically wiping out some of that unfunded liability, probably fairly significant numbers. So my question is, at some point, should we start paying out of this fund because we've reduced our liability, despite the fact that our liability includes this implicit portion of the liability, which will never be realized. In short, we're grossly overfunded, I believe.
Well, we're almost fully funded, but also, on page 68 at the bottom, it shows, what happens if the discount rate changes, or the healthcare cost rates change. And, the liability, if the discount rate is below the 6, it increases to 1.1 million. If the OPEB liability rates decrease by 1%, the rates reduce. We're in the positive 729, but if the rates increase, our liability will go up. So every year, whatever the rates amounts change, we will get fully funded. But at the same time, if the rate doesn't materialize for our trust, our funding amount could be below. And if the health rates increase, that could increase their liability. And that's why we do the actuarial every couple years. Every 2 years, we do an actuarial to take in all these assumptions. And so, I guess at some point we will want to pay out of using the trust. But we currently still have some members that are part of this future OPEB liability that are currently employed. So hopefully, maybe in the next year or so, we do another actuarial and kind of get an understanding, based off if there's any changes in the future assumptions, that maybe we can come to a point at what point in time we'll just pay out of this trust and no more pay as you go.
Right. And that's my point. Things are always going to change, Robert. My point is we're essentially overfunded right now, and we should start paying out of the trust, I believe. I don't know, when's the next actuarial update? Is it in January?
Yeah, we're going to do another actuarial update, probably by the end of ending this fiscal year, with our actuarial for the OPEB. And then at that point too, we'll have a meeting with the actuarial to kind of go over the assumptions and the changes. But yeah, we're funded because the interest rate, our investment return on the plan, and then there was some assumption changes had decreased also on the actual liability.
I don't want to beat it to death at this meeting, but we definitely need to discuss it in depth when we get to that actuarial update.
George, you had your hand up?
George?
Yes, thanks. Robert, can PARS give us, when they do the actuarial, a recommendation on when we should propose to draw down from that fund?
Yeah, our actuarial they could give us an estimate of when would be a good time to start pulling from that fund.
Yeah, well, I think we should include that as part of the next request from PARS.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on the audited financial statements that haven't come up yet? Okay, then thank you very much, Grace, for joining us again. And you are free to leave.
Thank you so much.
Everybody else, please stay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Grace. Appreciate it.
Okay, what's next here? Back to my agenda. Okay. So next on the agenda, we're now on number 6, is presentation, review, and discussion of the Calpers actuarial reports as of June 2020, not 2021. Remember, they're always a little behind. And we have Julian Robinson here with us, the senior pension actuary from Calpers, to walk us through that. And I also believe we have in our meeting materials, there were some slides. I don't know if you're using those, Julian, or if that was just background.
That was just background for me.
Okay.
But I believe Julian has had some information. I just want to real quick, just kind of before Julian chimes in, before we give him the presentation, this is just a continued review of, we've been looking at the Calpers actuarials for the last couple of meetings, and just wanted to brief the committee that at the November meeting that the Calpers board had, they changed they selected a portfolio that provided a projected rate of return of 6.8% for going forward. And so that's going to do some changes in the asset allocation for the plan. And, part of the review here today is, we have some questions of how this is going to impact our unfunded liabilities, what this means for our normal costs going forward, and how we can prepare and look at what this means for unfunded liabilities and how we can pay that down. There's a pension outlook tool that's available that Julian will help us and discuss with us, that will provide us an outlook of the difference between the 7% to 6.8% investment return going forward. That will take place starting in June 2021 or July of 2021, and then it will also include, we can show the investment plan had a 21.3% rate of return in 2021. So in the staff report, I put in some illustrations of UAL that we will review today, and then also included in the report is snapshots from the actuarials for our June 30th, 2020 actuarials that we can look at as well. But I just wanted to just reaffirm that there's those changes that have been made with Calpers, and glad to have Julian here with us again. It's great to have him and get some more insight on what's going on. Last time we met him, there was, the pandemic, and now there's just some changes going on with the asset liability management review with Calpers. And it's good to have that insight and that review with Julian. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Julian.
Great, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Can you see my screen? Maybe now.
Yes, now we can.
Yes.
All right. So I'm glad to be able to join you this afternoon at your Finance Committee meeting. So we're going to have a quick review of the pension plan and the fund status and some things like that. For some reason, my screen is blinking a lot, but hopefully we'll be able to get through this. I'm not sure why. So this is very...
Came off.
It came off. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on here. I've lost my...
Robert, do you have a copy of his slides or no?
No,
I do not.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened here because I was looking at my other screen. Let me see if I can. This is very weird. I have not had this happen before because I operate with working from home using two screens. But you can still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Give me a second here and let me try and find out what was going on. I'm gonna reboot my computer and I'll join you again in a minute, okay?
Okay.
I'm sorry about this. Is strange.
It's okay. We've all experienced it at one point or another during these times.
So while Julian is trying to figure out his technical difficulties, the only other agenda item that we have that I can see is talking about when our next meeting will be and whether there are any future agenda items that ought to be included. Robert, what's up there? When's our next date?
The next March 8th. March 8th. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my calendar. Yeah, March 8th. Yeah, and it'll be the March 8th, Tuesday, March 8th will be our next meeting, and we will begin our review of the budget process.
Okay. Oh, it says March.
And right.
Got it.
Right. And we'll bring back in the financial report, you had pointed out about the out years, bringing to the council in the out years of this pension, of this Outlook tool. I'm going to bring that as well, so you could to the Finance Committee to review what we're looking for as far as the Outlook financial years, as far as applying unallocated balance towards paying down of unfunded liabilities, and also not just that, but to our capital projects as well. We have numerous master plans that require funding, and so without the grants or other special revenue funding besides for streets, the general fund is the main source for capital project funding now. So that Outlook tool I'll bring back in March to the Finance Committee to review what we presented to the council back in December.
Doesn't look like Julian has been able to rejoin yet.
He fell off. Okay. Okay.
I'm going to suggest in the future that when we have an outside presenter, that you ask that they send you in advance.
No, we do. Yeah.
Just so that,
The-
if the
the-
technology fails, then you guys can put it up on your screen.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, let's give them a couple minutes, but I hate to keep these, people, these are busy people, so I don't want to wait too long. I'm trying to figure out if there's any other way to accomplish it. I'm not sure. He could at least send the slides to us and we could email back questions or something, I guess.
Hey, Davika,
Yeah,
are
I
you
think,
up in the mountains? You look like you're really bundled up.
No, I'm just feeling cold. I'm right here in Atherton, sunny Atherton, but cold.
Okay.
Okay,
It looks like Julian.
Julian just came back in. Yeah.
All right, I'm back. Hopefully the technology won't fail me again. Okay, let's start sharing. Okay. Let me know what you can see.
Very good.
It's a pretty blue sky.
There you go.
No, thank you, but I've got my screen doing the same flashing thing again. I don't know can you see that blue sky again, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I remote into my office.
Oh, there you go.
And all right, looks like it's stabilized. So the welcome to the discussion. Just a couple of words of pension actuarial terminology which we'll use. Robert also already mentioned the word normal cost in the discussion. So that means the value of the benefits which are accruing in the current year for active members. And then the other component of your annual contribution, it's usually made up of two pieces, is your normal cost is the annual cost for current members. And then if there's any unfunded liability, in other words, there's some catch up because of prior experience which hasn't worked out as exactly assumed, then there's a payment to pay down your unfunded accrued liability. We don't require that you pay it down immediately in one shot because a pension plan is a long-term financing vehicle for benefits, and unfunded liabilities are amortized up to 20 years according to our amortization policy. So let's look at some of the historical things. As of June 30, 2019, that's last year, the accrued liability in the miscellaneous first year plan was 72% funded. The Pepper plan, which is a much smaller plan, was 92% funded. The June 30, 2020 results, and again, we can see both the 2019 numbers and 2020 numbers, show the classic plan, the first tier plan, has a 70.8% funded status. So the funded status for most plans went down as of the most recent actual valuation, June 30, 2020. And as was mentioned a little bit earlier, our formal valuation process, is a little out of date, and that's because of the huge size of Calpers dealing with, literally thousands of plans throughout the state of California. So there was a slight decrease in the funded status of both the classic plan and the Pepper plan. But as you can see from the numbers on the screen, the classic plan is where the lion's share of the liabilities are. This line number 2 here, the entry age normal accrued liability, for the classic plan, that's just about $20 million, as opposed to the Pepper plan, which is much smaller, far fewer members, is only $500,000. So the classic plan is 40 times bigger. Now I'll show you a screenshot of the tool that Calpers introduced last year or the year before, fairly recently. And I would encourage all of you members of the finance committee to go onto Calpers' website, and you can sign up for this tool, and I know Robert has, because we've spent some time together chatting about this tool and some of the powerful things that you can do with it. So here we see on the screen in front of you is the miscellaneous plan as of June 30, 2020. We see that 71.3% funded status, and a projection of what's expected to happen over the future years based on that last valuation. And then similarly, it shows on this orange line over here what the expected contribution rate will be for the miscellaneous plans. Now, the good news at Calpers is, as of the last fiscal year, which ended June 30, 2021, Calpers achieved a 21.3% rate of return on the plan's assets. So that will have a very large impact on the funded status. So you can model that on this pension outlook tool. And the screen in front of you is showing that, as of 6/30/2021, our best estimate of the funded status of your miscellaneous plans is now about 80%. So there was a very large increase in the funded status due to that large investment gain. And also, I've reflected in this scenario, which I've run, is this discount rate of 6.8%. So as Robert mentioned, Calpers last year went through its ALM, asset liability management process, and selected a portfolio which is expected to earn 6.8% on an average basis into the foreseeable future. And Calpers does this ALM exercise every 4 years, just to check in to see that the asset allocation that the fund has is producing the results it expects. If there's any reason to modify the allocation based on the long-term expectations of the different categories of assets which comprise the fund. So there's a lot of information on our website about the whole process, and hopefully some of you were engaged during that process and following all the discussions. So what this graph shows you is, as a result of the both this return of 21.3% and this change in the discount rate down to 6.8%, how your expected contributions, it's this, I know that the colors are not that different, but the red line is the original line up at the top, but you can see your expected contributions have significantly decreased as a result of that, mainly return on assets of 21.3%. Then I included this in previous years. This is just a table from the pool report, because there's besides the individual plan reports, you're part of the miscellaneous pool, and there's different formulas represented in the pool. So on this slide, I'm showing that the 2 at 62, that's the Pepper formula, and the 2% at 55, which is the formula that you have for the classic plan. So you can see that you can see the different normal costs here across for all of the various plans. These plans are, I guess, listed in order of generosity of pension formula. So there is quite a range, and then they show the expected employee contribution and the net employer contribution for the normal cost. For the whole miscellaneous pool, it's 75.7% funded, and so your plan was, I guess, a little bit less funded than the average plan in the pool. And the average contribution rate for the pool was 23.7%. Let's switch and now talk about the safety plans which you have. So your safety plan as of June 30, 2019 was 70% funded. The safety PEPRA plan, again, which is was 90% funded, and in general, the PEPRA plans are better funded than the classic plans. The main reason is they've been around a much shorter period of time, and they haven't been exposed to some of the bad years of Calpers contributions. As of June 30, 2020, we can compare the numbers again and see that there was a slight decrease in the funded status of plans from 2019 to 2020. Both the classic and the PEPRA had that slight effect. In terms of the size of the plans, and as you know, your classic PEPRA plan, classic safety plan is much larger than the PEPRA plan, with the liabilities of 47 million in the classic plan versus liabilities of 1 million in the PEPRA plan. So it's 47 times approximately the size of the PEPRA plan. Again, I'm going to show you the similar screenshots from the Outlook tool that showed your current position, and when we add in the return of 21.3% that we earned in fiscal year 2021 and the drop in the discount rate of 6.8%, we see that the funded status as of June 30, 2021, these are estimates which are based on the model. You have a nice increase of up to 77.4% as of June 30, 2021, and you can see that your expected contribution pattern is going to be substantially lower than originally planned because of that large return. These scenarios, I should add, assume that we're going to be earning 6.8% for every year into the future. When you use the tool, you can actually put in different assumptions what you expect to earn in future years. You can either put them in, choose what returns that you want, or there are a number of scenarios which we used in the analysis, developing the ALM recommendations to the board. I think there's a few thousand scenarios which you can choose a random one on and see how that impacts the different the funded status and the contributions.
Julian?
Yes.
Now, you've got that graph up there. The question I have is, year by year, the difference between here, to me, the significance is really as it adds up. Do you have anything that tells you over that period of time how much less we'll be paying?
Yes, so if we look at, I'm glad you asked that question, because here, what at the bottom of this screen here, you can see this cost over 30 years. So on the baseline, the baseline is what was projected in the June 30, 2020 valuation.
It's the top red line.
It's the top red line. And based on this scenario, which is which recognizes the 21.3% earnings and the change in the discount rate, the total cost over 30 years is expected to drop to 39.26 million. So there's a change of 6.9.
All right, I'm sorry I didn't see that.
No, it's all right. There's a lot of numbers are flying around on the screen, so I'm glad you asked, so I could point that out to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other questions at this point? Okay, so just a brief comparison to the whole safety pool. The whole safety pool has a funded status of 71.5% as of the last valuation, and a 53.0% average contribution rate for the plans in the pool. And I think your rates were slightly below the average. I basically now can open the floor to any questions and discussions that you wanted to have. I know Robert mentioned to me that you were contemplating making some additional contributions to the fund, and many agencies have done that to, I guess, accelerate the payments to the fund and essentially save future costs by prepaying various expected future contributions at the moment.
Julian, who does the safety fund cover in our group of employees?
It covers the police and fire. I'm not sure if you have both categories, but it's the people who are defined to have safety functions. So it's usually the police and fire. Any other employees of the city are covered under the miscellaneous plan.
George, did you want to say something?
Sworn staff only, Wally, not dispatchers and code enforcement or anyone else working in the PD. It's only the sworn staff.
And it covers some of the fire people too?
Not for the town.
No.
Only town staff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My question, Julian, is back on your line graph.
Yeah.
Does that chart reflect what the annual or is there a way to reflect what the annual operational reduction would be in the town's annual UAL payment?
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go live. So we're looking at the live pension outlook tool right at the moment. So this was the graph which we were just looking at and I think I have the safety plan up here, right? So there's a number of tabs which you can choose. So if you want to look at the cash flows that are expected out of the safety plan. So this blue line here is an expectation of the benefit payments which are going to come out of the plan, and that's nothing which anybody has immediate control over, because when people choose to retire and they start receiving their benefits, so that's what this blue line represents. The red and the orange line here are the model of the expected payments out of the over the years in contribution. So you can see that the original payments were this dark red line, and the orange line shows the reduction in the payments as a result of the scenario we were running. In other words, reflecting the 21.3% and the 6.8% discount rate. Now your question was about the unfunded accrued liability.
So each year, we have, the basic obligation that we make for current staff. But then we have a payment that we make toward the unfunded actuarial liability that Calpers calculates out a few years in advance for us. With this scenario that you just run, is there any way to show with the increase in the plan's funded status, what's the impact on our UAL payment every year?
So okay. So, what? Because these right. What you see here is the combination of the normal cost plus the UAL. You want to see those things separately. Is that essential?
I guess you could probably see the difference. If the line's going to drop, we can assume then that our UAL payment will drop as well based on the increase in the funded status of the plan. Does CalPERS project that each year? And I guess why I'm asking that is what's going to come up next is that a contribution of $3, $4, or $5 million to one of these plans. So long as this tool can give us a projection of what that impact is on our UAL in the out years, we can make a more informed decision.
Right. So so if I go back to the slide presentation for the moment, I did run some additional ADP scenarios. So this one here is no ADP, right? And this is the thing which we've seen. If we assume that you're making a $3 million ADP to the safety plan, so you can see it's how there's a larger increase immediately to your unfunded, not to your funded status, right? Because you pay down another chunk of the unfunded liability, and then you can see. I'll now flip back to the other slide, but you'll see that this line here, is significantly lower than the line on the previous slide. And unfortunately, the tool doesn't let you superimpose the two, but you can see the difference here. The funded status pops up to 85% here, where on this previous one it was still below 80% if you made a $3 million ADP. And you can see similarly how the ongoing contribution in the future gets down to when it becomes flat, that's essentially saying that you're only paying the normal cost and there's no future payments on the unfunded accrued liability once you've kind of flatlined here. That's the normal cost rate. And then if you did a $5 million thing, the funded status jumps up even more quickly, and you reach you wipe out your UAL even earlier, as this is now flatlined into the normal cost payment, even earlier. And going back to the live demonstration over here, what we can do in the modeling assumptions, we can add let me add the $3 million ADP. Yeah. And let's see. Let's submit this.
And Julian, going from the contribution date of that $3 million to the point at which the graph flatlines, does CalPERS calculate, it just spreads that UAL out over a certain period of time? Is there a certain period of time that it spreads it out over?
Yeah, so what it does is when you actually make an ADP, what you actually look at is you examine the amortization table from the report. And let me see if I can over here. Let me pull up the report, the this is the actuarial report for the town. And I presume all of you have seen these reports, right? So there's this
Yes.
there's this wonderful table in the report, which you can, let me try and make this a little bit bigger. Called the schedule of plans amortization basis. I know it's a little bit of an imposing table, but what this table does is each year that we do evaluation, we establish any gains and losses and identify any new pieces of the unfunded accrued liability which emerge. So when you make an additional contribution to the plan, what essentially happens is you decide which of these underlying components of the unfunded liability you want to pay off. In general, any, and one of the lines here, I don't know if maybe I can try and make it even bigger. So you can see one of the lines here in this table is the amortization period. That's the number of years in the future that is left, or this slice of the unfunded liability is paid off. So generally, paying off one of these bases, which has a large number of years, you end up saving more interest by paying off one of those longer bases. It's similar to the mortgage on your house, right? In a 30-year mortgage, you end up paying a lot more interest than you would if you had a 15-year mortgage. So if you paid off one of the longer bases, you'd end up saving more interest than if you paid off some of the shorter bases. So
And we choose?
you choose.
Hmm.
And one of the other things which goes hand in hand with this decision is something which we call a fresh start. And what that essentially means is you can decide to collapse all of these bases and then amortize the whole amount over say a 15 or 20-year period. Let me just show you that's actually the next section in the report. So we give you a sample. So we show in the report what your expected unfunded accrued liability payments are going to be for the next 30 years. Now you can make a decision and do a fresh start for 15 years, which would mean you're going to pay off the same liability has been amortized, but just over a shorter period of time. And of course, the payment is going to be larger. And at the bottom of this table, we show the estimated savings of doing a fresh start over 15 years would end up saving you $2.5 million over the period. And if you did a more aggressive fresh start over 10 years, you'd end up saving $5.7 million of interest. So, and of course you can theoretically mix the two together. You could do an additional payment, and then whatever balance is left over, you could elect a fresh start and amortize the balance over a number of years. And you can choose the number of years. These are just sample years. Of course, we're not going to let you choose 50 years and have your payment less than the minimum, but we will let you choose any period which will generate some interest savings for you.
Bob has a question.
Well, I have two. So are we right to assume that if our cost of money is 2% and you're charging us now 6.8%, that the net savings by paying off some of our pension debt is the delta? It's that simple?
That's true. And in fact, I know a number of cities around the state, and it's public information, have made done pension obligation bonds effectively to take advantage of that difference. Yeah.
Right. And so my next question is, from what I can see of that tool, we could, if we plug in 3 million or 4 million or $5 million, whatever it is, there's going to be a lag before it's reflected, because you're always 2 years behind, but there'll be a lag before it's reflected. But that tool will actually tell us exactly how much money we save and how fast we will get to normal cost only contributions based on things as they exist today, correct?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That's a powerful tool.
Yeah, no, it's very useful, and we're glad that our stakeholders are using it to dive into their pension liabilities. I don't think the tool at the moment lets you do a fresh start, as far as I know, but maybe that's something that can be built in the future. Yeah.
So absent, Julian, absent a fresh start, we could go into that larger table a couple pages back, select the ones that we wanted to reduce or eliminate in terms of their amortization periods, and then whether it's $3,547 or whatever that is, to eliminate those, calculate the rest, and then do a fresh start at a 15, 10, or 20-year funding horizon for that to pay it off, and calculate what they would be, what our UAL would be each year.
Right. But I mean, you don't have to do a fresh start. You can do an additional payment, and then you'll see. So if you made a payment this year towards the plan, we would adjust what UAL payment you would make starting 22-23.
And then our actuarial then would show us what our expectation would be until we flatlined.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would adjust it that quickly, Julian?
Yes, we do adjust the payments for starting the next fiscal year if an agency makes an ADP. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because you're right. Because what essentially happens is, we go back to the beginning of the report. Sorry, I missed it. Here we go. So we have this table here which shows what your 22-23 contribution is. Right. So it's going to be this normal cost, the 25.64%, plus the amortization of the unfunded. And as you know, you can either pay it off all at the beginning of the year and save a half a year of interest, or you could pay it off monthly. And but if you made an ADP, we would immediately change this 97,000, could drop down to 80,000, depending on how much the unfunded liability you pay off. So that would change immediately.
Yeah, but that page is all about the normal cost. I thought all the savings was in the unfunded or the UAL payments.
No. This covers both. So the normal cost is this 25.64% that you see here, and then these other flat dollar numbers. Those are the payments towards the unfunded liability.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 25.64, that doesn't change, but these other numbers would change to reflect any additional contribution you make, or if you did a fresh start election, those would be updated to reflect those changes. And they added, I think, last year in the report, some examples of so if you did a funding target of wanting to pay off all the liabilities over a 15-year period, so the normal cost, as you can see on this table, stays the same, and then you have the minimum UAL payment. And then if you had an ADP of one of these amounts, that would be effectively trying to pattern the 15-year fresh start if you looked at this second line of the table. So if you made an ADP of 408,000, your total contribution would be this, a total UAL contribution, and your and that would
Normal cost.
and the normal cost here, and that would target paying off the funds over 15 years. So if you made a $3 million ADP, then that would be very aggressive, and it would go a long way to, I mean, this assumes that you're making this ADP, I think, every year.
Mhm.
Looks like the same calculation you see on your credit card bill every month.
Yes. Well, I don't spend that much on my monthly credit card, but
So for this one, I'm sorry for interrupting. For this one, the UAL payment for next year, 22-23, is 1.1 million. And we always take the town doesn't pay the monthly. There's the option to pay it monthly or lump sum. We always pay it lump sum in July.
right.
So right now our UAL will be 1.1 million. But if we want to pay that UAL and make another contribution as an ADP, we could do that as well. We would also just need to notify you, correct? Or
Yeah, right. That's
that we're going to do that.
right. Yeah. And then we would send you the paperwork where you choose if you're going to wire the money or do it through the Calpers system, and identify which of the components of the UAL payment you want to pay off, and then we would produce a letter showing what your updated contribution would be for the next fiscal year if you made those payments. Yeah. But when I discuss this with any of my agencies, I remind them that all these numbers in this report are based off of the 2020 valuation. And as we saw from the Pension Outlook tool, the plans are in actually probably much better financial situations because of that large gain. So not to try and make a because some agencies are interested in paying off their entire unfunded accrued liability. So I know you're not contemplating that, but agencies which are, I tell them, hey, be careful because your financial situation is a lot better than what's reflected in this 2020 report because of those large gains. Yeah.
And what money we give to
So then,
CalPERS,
Julian,
right?
go ahead, George. Sorry.
I was just saying, what money we give to CalPERS, we don't get back.
That well, it comes back as pension payments to the retirees that have worked and served the town of Atherton. Yes. So, but that's a good point. And that's when agencies do these pension obligation bonds, that's the risk that once if they borrow the money, right, and then they've given it to CalPERS to invest, if something happens at CalPERS, and we know we have a volatile investment experience and things don't work as expected, you still have to pay off the bond, and your unfunded liability could theoretically come back. So that's that's one of the potential dangers in those pension obligation bonds. So you have to go into those kind of big financial decisions with your eyes open. But that's that's an important point. Yeah.
And Julian, real quick on the 21.3% investment return, that's going to be reflected in the June 31st, 2022 or 2021 report that comes out next
Right.
year?
Yes. That's going to be.
Or is it later this year?
Right. Yes. That plus plus all of the decisions that the board made with respect to the asset liability management. So the biggest one was the change in the discount rate from 7 to 6.8. So that change in itself has an impact of in increasing the liabilities. And then there were a number of other changes made to our mortality rates and things like that. We always do an investigation to see if our mortality assumptions have been reflective of our actual experience, and we'll also have our first year of experience with COVID and how that's impacted the system too, because we do expect that. Well, we know that there's been a high number of deaths since COVID than we would have had expected from our normal mortality. Yeah. Are there any further questions? But I know you ask Robert. He's now an expert at using the Pension Outlook tool, so I'm sure he'd be happy to do a tutorial with you guys, so you can run some different scenarios. Let me try and bring it up again. Where is that?
Our place.
Yeah. So pop open the model. So if there's this random investment scenario. So if you click yes onto that, you can say generate new random scenarios, and you can choose on how optimistic or pessimistic you want to see the different scenarios, and you can submit it. And it's kind of interesting how the different patterns that will emerge compared to what I just chose a simple scenario for you to look at, but there's a lot. Nobody knows what the future is going to bring, so you can look at different scenarios and see. And then Robert also knows how to you can download a lot of the numbers into a spreadsheet that are generated from here, and you can do some further analysis. So you can see the numbers each year in the spreadsheet rather than just what's on the screen. But,
Julian, can you download the spreadsheet on this one just to show what it looks like? I think
yeah. So if I just click this here, it downloads a spreadsheet. Let me open the spreadsheet here. Okay, here we go. So the spreadsheet has some terms of use, the assumptions. So I don't know if you can. It shows the basic assumptions here. So this one still has that $3 million ADP amount in the assumptions, and then you've got all of the projections for the pools, for the miscellaneous pool and the safety pool. So it runs all of the plans and produces what the projection of what the market value of assets looks like, what your UAL amount is, the funded ratio, and then on the baseline case, and then it does the similar calculation on the scenario case which you just generated. So you can see the delta and the difference between the two scenarios which you've run. So if you wanted to dig deeper into the numbers, you can do that too. Go back to the modeling assumptions and then choose one over there. Generate random. Oh, okay, I wonder if that's did that change things up? It's hard to see. Yeah, so you get on a bit of a wild roller coaster ride with some of these scenarios. But that's, yeah, no, it's an interesting tool and lets you try and model different things. If you wanted to take out the ADP, and then also it allows you to add an ADP for just 1 year, or if you plan to make a series of ADPs for future years, you can add that over here. You can take it out. Submit. Let's see. It's got changed up a little bit there. And then if you're interested in looking at any other plan that Calpers has, what's your favorite city or your competitor's city, if you want to see what's going on with their Calpers plans and liabilities, it's all here, public information, so you can look at that as well.
So thank you very much, Julian. Are there any other questions? I think we've gotten a little bit down far into the weeds for some of us mortals here.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. I'll send the deck of slides which I used over to Robert, and he can distribute it.
That would be great. Thank you very much, Julian. And I guess a question for Bob and George and Robert. Is the council seriously considering making some kind of additional discretionary payment, or are we supposed to make a recommendation? Is this just laying groundwork? What's up?
I can address that one. So during I think it was a joint meeting with the finance committee where you guys were there. They were talking about that financial spreadsheet of the out years and putting in some numbers for CIP projects and such. One of the topics that came up was the potential for an additional contribution to the pension program. So that's the genesis of the questions to Julian. I don't think the council is specifically looking for a recommendation from the finance committee at this point, but they could certainly ask for one once they discuss this again at an upcoming meeting.
Okay, good. Well, that keep us posted, and we'll leap into action if required.
Well, George, the letter that the finance committee gave to the council last year with your heavy editing, in essence, did suggest strongly that the council consider some prepayment scenario. And I, for one, am going to be jumping up and down until we do it.
That's great, Bob.
So it's just to confirm, sorry, I wasn't part of that meeting though. Is it just a prepayment that we would recommend, not changing the amortization schedule or anything, right? Or is it all to be discussed at a later point?
I think it's all to be discussed at a later point. Julian's reveal here of the tool and how it works gives us some additional information to use. And so I think in conjunction with a payment, there could be a discussion of a reset that might make sense.
I think there's also, and I think this was mentioned in the memo that Bob championed, that there may be some arbitrage to be had here if we do a bond or do some kind of borrowing where we're paying a much lower percentage than 6.8% and get caught up that way.
Ann and Bob, I'm right with you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's exactly the point, that us mortals can understand, which is the difference between 3%, which we currently pay approximately 3% on our COP, and the 6.8% that we get charged from Calpers is a material difference. And I don't know that we need to do a bond. We've effectively got one that we're looking at paying off. And if we didn't pay that off, we could use those funds to reduce and what effectively is a much higher interest obligation.
Isn't the rate on that actually closer to 2%?
It is. It's closer to 2% on the COP. It's a little bit above 2% what we had borrowed.
So for the committee, it's a those certificates of participation are fully amortized over 10 years. And the original intent was we'd pay them back in 5. However, if we continue on the 10-year amortization schedule, George has already run calculations, and the cash flow is such that rather than that we could continue to make the amortized payments and use the cash that we were going to use to pay off the COP in 5 years, we could use it to make a lump sum payment towards our pension obligations. And so that's why we gave Julian numbers of 3, 4, and 5, because that's kind of the range of numbers of the amount of cash we have access to.
That makes perfect sense to me. Well, we will wait to hear from the council as to whether they want further input from this committee, but it sure does sound like a good idea to me. Are there any more issues to come before the Audit and Finance Committee? Otherwise, I think we've exhausted our agenda. We've had 2 presentations from outside professionals, and we're coming up to almost an hour and 40 minutes. So I bet people are getting tired of Zooming.
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing really quick. Julian, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal in the last few weeks about what it takes to become an actuary and move up the ranks. It was kind of overwhelming.
So I did see the article, and I think there was a lot of truth to it. Yeah. So
Unbelievable. I mean, I knew actuarials were smarter than, as Rick said, mere mortals, but I had no idea how much it took to get credentialed and move up the ranks.
Well, I always wanted to be an accountant, but I didn't have the personality, so I became an actuary.
You've got plenty of personality.
Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I got off.
No, that's fine. We like to finish on a light note. So, can I have a motion to adjourn from a committee member?
I move so.
Thank you, Wally. A second from somebody?
Second.
Thank you. All right. Meeting is adjourned. We'll see you guys in March, I hope.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Julian. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice seeing
Thank you,
everybody.
Julian.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.